I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is the Stoneopolis mod pack. So, jumping back into some more Stoneopolis, we are now on episode 10, and because I'm playing on our server with a bunch of people, I definitely want to be able to show off some of their awesome bases, especially as I start to develop mine. Now, the goal of today's episode is to definitely show off basically where people are currently at, as my base is under construction and many others are as well. And I thought this would be a pretty cool way to show off basically how everybody sort of plays, because not everybody focuses on building, a lot of people focus on progression, and shoot, there's people that have nearly beaten the pack at this point. And so just bear in mind, my base is also under construction and many of these will also be as well. Now, after all of this base showing off, we're definitely going to dive back into some more of the amazing progression that is still yet to be had in this mod pack. That is including, but not limited to, power. Oh, that's right. We are going to be expanding on our power, and this is going to be the ultimate room that you see behind me for immersive, even including a nice big sieve of ChosenArchitect in the background, which I thought was nice and fitting. So now with that being said, let's show off some bases. Now, I definitely don't think this is going to be the last time that I do this, because towards the end of the series, I also want to show off everyone's bases to sort of see where everyone has sort of gotten from this point forward. And we could possibly see some pretty cool things, because I do know there's some awesome builders on here. But there's also some pretty big logistical thinkers as well. So let's go ahead and check these out. Now, to get started, I asked you guys over on the Discord if you guys did pop over to my base and you wanted it to be shown off, to just toss a piece of paper in here to basically say, hey, I want my island to be shown off. And so I definitely have a few names in here and a few different islands. So I think what I'm going to do is pull a name out of the bucket and we're going to go visit their island. Now, first on the list is Neiguan, which has a very interesting island whenever you make your way here. And so apparently there is a board over here. It says, careful, dangerous area. Okay, I like this so far. It says, welcome to the heart of Neiguan Island. If you want to continue, donate anything you can to the computer. Oh man, there is only one destination, but I'll do more later. Ooh, interesting. You know what? We should donate a wand, right? Oh, and we get teleported. I love this so far. This is pretty neat. And I believe that this is on the top of the Sky Island, by the way. So how neat is that? And of course, when I was saying somebody has basically nearly beaten the pack, or probably already completed the pack, this is one person already who basically has this whole thing completed. But there's a whole massive area over here working on all of the cores that are required to beat the pack. I mean, it literally took like a week for him to beat the pack. And it's kind of insane. I don't even know. How is it even possible? I don't ask these kind of questions, honestly, but there's an end portal in the overworld here. I'm scared to step on the pressure plates. All kinds of craziness going on. I have not used these in a long time for the extended crafting, but a little bit of the immersive engineering machines. Honestly, surprised to see that all you really need is a mixer and a crusher and a press. That's kind of nifty. And then a massive water wheel setup over here. Of course, the clouds are up here because this is above. And of course, there they are, their self. Looking mighty swag over here. Look at this all completed. That's kind of ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. Now, this is pretty cool. The fact that they made it on top here, on top of the Skyblock, essentially making it to the top where you can get above the bedrock. And I absolutely love that idea. So definitely if you want some more space, that's a great option. But honestly, I still have no idea how this works. I don't recommend going into the portal. How in the world? Oh, this is just things I just shouldn't question. I just shouldn't do that. I will say this room is extra trippy here. Oh man, with all of these rainbow stone blocks. These are nifty looking, very trippy. So with this beautiful base out of the way, I guess it's time to maybe see a few others. Now, of course, in stark contrast, we have an island that is called the Jank Factory, and it is from Villager Gaming and Malachi Latte. And well, welcome to the jankiest factory in all the lands, Villager and Latte. And yes, this is another example of another type of playstyle where your main goal is to just sort of place everything wherever you want it. and just really not worry about how you're going to build. And a lot of people play this way, and there's honestly nothing wrong with this. If this is how you enjoy playing, then all for you. Like, that is 100% like something that you can do, because that's the cool part about this this game, right? Is you can really build how you want. I mean, but honestly, it definitely draws from tons of aspects of my own base. So I mean, it's it's not that far off from the way mine actually looks. But it does appear that they're basically at the same part that I'm at. AE2 is love, AE2 is life, RS is a lie, embrace channel. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you do have to embrace your inner channels. It's just part of life. Of course, I can't help but laugh. I want my mech reactor. Don't we all? But now this right here is a good example of why I don't necessarily want to go with windmill power. I mean, yeah, underground windmill water wheels, they take up this huge amount of space when they're placed in. And they just don't generate that much power, to be fair. So with the jank factory out of the way, let's take a look at a couple of others. Now these next couple of bases, I'm going to be sort of doing a fly through of them. And this base is made by Aalin. And I don't know exactly if they're teamed up or not, but on the card it just said Aalin. And this right here is a great example of definitely working towards just unlocking as much as you can. It does look like they have applied energistics to this point, which is really nice. Oh, and they definitely have more than applied energistics from the looks of it. And they're going to be using a very similar method to generating power that I'm using. But it is interesting to see them using the animal separator to, I'm assuming, generate pink slime that we're going to have to do later on. So that's a nifty way of doing it. That's definitely a more automatable way of doing it. And this right here is a nice little food farm. Now this next base belongs to Ivy Kirkland. And this so far is a fantastic looking base. And I love the use of all the color blocks, as I didn't necessarily use that many of them. Now what's impressive is we don't have a whole lot of tools for clearing things out outside of just ore excavator. So seeing this massive dome area is pretty darn cool. But what I'm excited to take a look at are these rooms over here with colored themes. For example, the blood magic up ahead definitely has that black and red theme that absolutely fits that mod. And I'm assuming this one's going to be crop related just based off the colors. And I really enjoy the idea of using these blocks to sort of color code your different areas that you have set up. Now this base belongs to Live to Ride 17, and from the looks of it, it does appear like it might be a early stage base, but they already have applied energistics unlocked. So they are definitely working towards furthering their progression. And just look at this. This is pretty neat. So I wonder what this is going to look like when it's all said and done. They're definitely working on something. I just don't know what it is. Now this base right here is supposedly belongs to Neofast, and I believe that this is actually a massive team of people who are called Team Nexus. For example, here's just a few that are actively working on the base while I'm recording these videos. And from the looks of it, getting pretty fancy with the drawers. I really like the way that those colors are set up. And it does appear like they're planning something big, because this right here is an immersive engineering room, and it looks like they're prepping for more machines. Now, of course, underneath all that facade, they are still working on infrastructure, as you can see underneath the base. And now I can't wait to see what this base produces in the future. Keep in mind, this has only been about a week of the server being up and running at this point. Now, this absolutely stunning start of a base belongs to Maple Cakes, and so far, this is fantastic. With this massive spiral staircase that leads over this water area, this whole thing had to be cleared out by hand, by the way. And progression is still being done, as there's multiple different furnaces from immersive in the walls. But just when you think it's done, there's another room that's doing the exact same thing, hovering over a bunch of water with a bunch of strainers. Now I'm definitely excited to see what this base turns into in the future, because so far it is stunning. And I could just see the potential in this. Now, last but not least, on the bases I wanted to show off, this one belongs to Chelsea, which is pretty darn cool and definitely a work in progress. But I do love the idea of having these sort of areas set up that are apparently going to be for drawers and housing items. And all of this is a pretty decent use of all of these different wood types and materials that we have access to in this pack. And yet again, just another reason why I shouldn't stress too much about the building palette possibilities, because it does still appear to be endless. And with that, I hope you enjoyed these little base tours, as my base is starting to come along, and I hope yours is as well. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of inspiration, and if not, hopefully takes a little bit of stress off your back, because you don't have to build nice when you play modded Minecraft or Minecraft in general. You just need to play however it makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, that's really the only thing that keeps you playing games like these, is just your enjoyment. So now with all that out of the way, we've got some grinding to do, and that is going to be definitely towards power. I want a nice sustainable power system that is going to hopefully propel us into the future. And while we don't have access just yet to the best power in the pack, we definitely have access to some interesting power that I've never used, and that's the infinity generator. Now, at the moment, I am using this particular setup. Very, very simple, and you basically put charcoal in here, and it generates 50 power per tick, which is very, very nice, and really doesn't take up all that much room. Now, I think the problem lies in the fact that it only generates 50 power per tick. But apparently there is a much better version of this that we could get into in the future. And when taking a look at the book for this block, we can go into the AE2 generator section, which is actually underneath the modded multi-blocks, which I actually didn't see originally. But there is an AE2 generator, and this right here basically contains an AE2, a small one, an AE2 multi-block of controllers. Now the controllers are, in my opinion, of finite resources in the pack, unless it gets changed in the future. As the only way you can buy these blocks or make these blocks is by using your B-Bucks to actually buy them. But this apparently generates what appears to be like 450 power per tick, which is honestly kind of nice. So just to be more specific, it does appear to be 460 power per tick, but it does also need to be running on Certus. But yeah, that's a pretty decent amount of power. Now today I should be able to generate roughly that much because each of these are going to be producing about 50. So we're going to have 50, this is 100, and then right here is going to be 200. And so if I do that, that's 400. And then if I add the tops up here, then that of course is going to equal a total of roughly 500 power per tick. And this is going to be greatly needed as we are going to need ways of keeping, for example, our crusher and many other things constantly running. Now, as I was working on the construction of this area behind me and was working on figuring out how I was going to get the power stacks, I decided, you know what, I might as well have some things automated and running. And so I basically automated the production of Certus quartz crystals by just linking routing nodes from one location to another. So over here, I'm basically taking my Certus dust and I'm just sending that over into this blast furnace. And these nodes are so cheap that they're just so easy to use. And you can just send them all over your base. And the only master node I have is this one right here. So they're basically being all routed through this one master node. And so if you set up the filters correctly, you can, for example, make a unlimited chest of charcoal like I have here, and this will send charcoal to wherever you tell a output to send charcoal, for example, to this blast furnace. And so I have that routed all the way over here, and whenever that finishes up blasting that, it then sends it over here to basically create an entire buffer chest, for example, of charged Certus quartz. So because we have this all infinitely generating, and we have all of our quartz landing over here, this is a very nice backlog of Certus for whenever we want to start upgrading our applied energistics. Now, the reason I showed you the nodes and how I'm actually using them here is because we're actually going to use them to automate our power over here. That charcoal that's in that chest is going to make its way over to these infinity generators. Now, since I'm going to be working with a lot of different nodes, I decided to set up something different. So I made another summoning block and I have my blood underneath here. And what I can do now is I can use the dagger of sacrifice. So anytime I need blood to go into the altar or life essence, all I have to do is summon a couple of skeletons. And then as soon as I attack them with the dagger of sacrifice, it completely fills the altar, which is very, very nice. And that saves me from needing to, well, constantly eat. Now, after doing a bit of testing, it does seem like I can't send coal to the bottom of the generator. I can only send items it appears into the top, but it does appear the power can be extracted from the bottom. And so with that newfound knowledge, it does sort of change the way that I was initially planning on setting this up, as now I have to go through here and I have to make sure these at least have a 2-block gap between them. Now, because of the limitation of not being able to insert items into the bottom, it has led me to, well, a little bit less power in this particular configuration. So instead, what we're going to be getting is 200 RF or power per tick per column. So with this nice little setup here, I can produce 200 in this and 200 in this one. So now that I got all of the nodes linked together and I have my filter in here, so these are all outputting, basically coming from my unlimited source of charcoal. and it's being routed all the way over here, as you can see. So these are infinitely running, and they also store quite a bit of power, all the way up to 100 million. So I don't really feel like I need to have a bunch of accumulators or anything. And this also, I don't think is going to basically go past the available power that we can input into an LV, because it's really only about 400 power per tick. So that shouldn't be too bad. Now I want it all to centralize right here. So I should be able to place myself a LV connector just like so. And I've placed in these wooden wall mounts to allow me to have a few more connectors on here. Now, all of the mains, they are actually going to be connected to these LV wire connectors. And so what my goal is for this is down here, I'm going to have that power coming off, but I've got to have a way of sending it up here from the bottom since it is underground. So I'm going to actually send this one into an LV accumulator, which is a great way of just basically sending your power out and moving it in a complete, 90-degree angle. So in this, I just got to make sure that my input is here and make sure this is set to output, because we're going to also send this power up into this connector right here. I'll tell you what, there is nothing more satisfying than connecting up all of the cables like you see here. I mean, this is fantastic. Like, this is one of my favorite parts of the immersive mod, and I'm pretty sure I've said that in the past. It's just fantastic, and one of the most satisfying parts, especially when you do stuff like this, right? When you jump over and then you start to connect all of these mains into a power grid or a power network. And understandably so, as somebody who knows and has many friends who work in the, well, power line industry and laying industry, every single one of them that I've ever met has always taken pride in their work. And, well, I can see why. And boy, oh boy, is that beautiful. Look at that. It looks like a massive spider web just kind of lounging across here, but this is fantastic, especially when you start looking at all of the intricate parts and how this is functioning. And the fact that this is now housing a stored amount of power that will eventually equate to, we have 8 of these, so 800 million. That is so much power, and all of that power is reserved, and we can use it upon demand. Now, there is one strange issue that I've noticed started to occur after setting up these generators, and that is occasionally my sound just doesn't work, which is a very weird thing, and maybe it'll get fixed in the future. But I'm almost positive that it is because of these generators, as it seems whenever I am about 3 chunks away from them, my sound returns back to normal. So with this, I can now tear down my under construction sign and notice that it didn't make any sound, which is kind of weird. But I decided to go ahead and place in these wooden posts, and I like the idea of using them backwards where they look like they're hanging down from the ceiling. So not only can you use them on the floor, you can also hang them from the ceiling, which I think looks fairly nice. Now, this episode has been a kind of all over the place, as I'm not necessarily going off of what the quest book has. Instead, I'm building infrastructure up. So getting ourselves more power, which is definitely needed at this point, and also prepping myself for the future. And so in that regard, I think we should also get access to a wireless crafting terminal. Now, in order to make this, we are going to need a way to power this. Thankfully, we can actually power this up utilizing our charger over here, which is going to be very, very nice. But we don't have a way of wirelessly charging just yet. But in the future, in this pack, it does seem like you get access to Flex Networks. Sorry, I peeked a little bit in the quest book, and well, yes, we do get access to wireless charging at some point. So with that, let's go ahead and start crafting this thing. So it's very simple to actually get a wireless terminal. In Applied Logistics, it's been made even simpler in this particular version. In the newer versions, you don't have to worry about crafting yourself a security terminal anymore. So all we really need is we need access to 2 of these wireless receivers, because we're going to need 1 for this craft, and you also need 1 to place in world. So that means a little bit of processing of the fluix inside of here to make some fluix dust, and also ender pearls inside of an inscriber to get yourself some ender dust. We'll be using the ender dust momentarily. Now, we are going to need a dense energy cell, and this is what's going to basically be the battery for this crafting grid. Now, after crafting up the wireless terminal, this process couldn't be any simpler. So we are going to use our other wireless receiver to craft ourselves a wireless access point. And this is how we're going to link our entire system. So I should be able to attach this to a cable. You'll notice it is going to light up. And the way that we link now is by opening up the access point and just placing this inside. And now it is linked to our current storage. And you can actually use hotkeys and all kinds of stuff to open this crafting terminal. Now, by default, the range is not quite far enough, in my opinion. So I do want to upgrade and add a few range upgrades. So while this is charging up, I can go ahead and get that started. It looks like that charge might last quite a while. And so there is a slot inside of the wireless access point, which I should be able to increase, and that is a range booster. Now, there also is an infinity range booster. Don't recommend using that at the moment. It is going to be so power heavy, definitely not worth getting into. But we can use these regular boosters, and these are going to supply just a little bit, just a nudge, because right now it's a range of 16 meters, and we can increase these. Every single one adds up onto that range. And now with 8 of them in there, you can see it's costing us about 20 AE per tick. I don't remember exactly how that translates to RF, but you can see now we can go about 38 blocks, or when it says meters, 38 blocks away. And overall, we were sitting at about 50 energy, and it's really hard to tell unless I switch this. Okay, so we're using about 10 more power per tick to have that accessible. It's 100% worth it because I can now walk around and I don't have to constantly come back here if I need to craft something. And now that this is fully charged, I can now test out the range, and of course I can open this up and it is going to be just as if I'm standing right here opening this terminal. Can you hear the excitement in my voice? Now, I just don't know how much power this draws or how annoying it will be, but there are upgrades that we will be able to make eventually, which will allow us to extend the amount of energy that is stored inside of this. So that'll be definitely something worth trying in the future. And I don't think this can be upgraded in that regard, but yeah, charging in this does take quite a while. Now, even though I can't equip it into a curio slot, I don't have to have it in my hotbar to access it. So what I did was I ended up setting a hotkey to it. So you just go to options, into the controls, keybinds, under category and applied energistics, and is the open wireless terminal. I like to set mine to Control E, but of course, whatever you feel like setting it to. This is just the most comfortable for me to be able to make sure I open my crafting grid and not my normal crafting table. And so with the hotkey in place, I can just have this in my inventory anywhere, and I don't have to worry about it being in my hotbar. And so now with the access to our wireless storage, I think we are now set up and ready to go for the future. And we are going to be hopefully crafting ourselves some diamonds very, very soon in the next episode. So be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. More to come in the next episodes. So like I said, be sure to do that. And it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Jax Titan Nova. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible and absolutely going above and beyond. Thank you so very much. And well, guys, I do appreciate you as well. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.